Welcome. I'm Nick Edgar.
And I'm Jess Frost.
And we are the co-founders of the 3E Space. This is our podcast. Have you got space for this?
An unscripted and unplanned podcast dedicated to curious, messy, and imperfect conversations about the human experience.
Each week we will pick a topic at random that you, the audience, has said, I'd love to see Jess and Nick explore this topic. So without further ado, grab yourself a cuppa, let's explore, get energised and feel empowered together.
Let's go.
Let's go.
All right.
All right. All right.
Welcome, team, to Have You Got Space for This?
I like that you're saying team now.
Oh, I love team.
Yeah, team's good. It's better than guys.
Guys.
And we all say guys, don't we?
So true. No, I love team. Feels like a team. Yeah. Like our communities in various different spaces feel like good teams. We need teams right now.
We do.
Not teams.
We don't need that kind of teams. No, we don't need work-based teams.
Not teams.
That teams.
But welcome. Another Friday, another episode, another potential stream of consciousness. Are you ready? Have you got space for this?
I've got space for this. Have you got space for this?
I do actually. Yeah. I feel expansive right now.
I'm loving that we're in short sleeves as well today.
You know?
We're there. Like,
yeah.
in it.
Spring, February.
Channeling,
here.
exactly. Absolutely manifesting spring.
I'm so ready for just spring vibes, like little flowers coming out, sprouting, buds.
Is that your impression of a little flower? I love that.
It's like how most humans...
That's me getting up in the morning. No?
Hello?
Trying to get downstairs before a mouse starts screaming at us.
That is, you have to be like, if you make any noise, she's like, Nyeh.
Yeah.
Bless her little heart. She's still with us.
Still with us. Going strong.
Oh, how are you diddling?
I'm all right. I think you should go first this week.
I'm really good. Yeah, really good. Just, I do love a fresh start. Obviously we've moved, and I think I've worked this out. I think it's like 23 times or something like that in my life.
Incredible.
It's actually like classed as traumatic that many times. But yeah, I'm so used to it. So yeah, I love a fresh start. I'm like,
where are some of the places that you've lived?
I've lived in Leicester City, Leicestershire. I've lived in Leamington Spa. I've lived in Richmond, Surrey. I've lived in Bristol. I've lived in Nottingham. I spent a bit of time in New York. But yeah, like even growing up, we moved across the village green in the same village. But yeah, moved a lot. But yeah, I think it's definitely helped the combating of hoarding.
Yeah, we touched on that last week, didn't we?
Yeah. But no. How about you? How are you feeling?
Yeah, like I feel excited. And that feeling of creativity and newness and renewal and growth that comes with spring. You know, I know it could snow in 2 weeks' time, or there'll be some horrendous storm and it will take us right back to winter, but that's okay. But I'm really excited for this one because I asked you like where you'd lived, like before the 4 years we spent in Beeston. I'd lived in my house for 14 years, something like that. And I think for me, moving to Beeston, in 2021, it was still coming off the back of the pandemic. Like there was just a different energy to me. So, but for me, I think this time, this has been a real conscious, creative experience to be where we are now. I've never lived anywhere that I can walk out my front door and be able to see like hills. And nature to that extent, and to have that on the horizon. It's always been in fairly built up areas. that I'm really excited about.
Yes.
You
We
know?
were so close to going to Sheffield, weren't we? Like, in like some of these incredible apartments. We were
Yes.
really torn. But yeah, we've gone for rural.
I think because being outside in more natural environments, I've recognised is so good for me
And me.
in coming home to myself, whatever's going on. And if it's on my doorstep rather than having to jump in a car to get there. And we had that a little bit in Beeston. We did.
Yeah. Beautiful green spaces, wasn't
Yes.
there? Walkable distance.
Yes. But this just feels like my first conscious new environment in quite a while.
Yeah.
And that's really exciting.
I'm, just beyond excited. So I hope you're all doing okay.
Yes.
And we're going to dig into... Is it my turn to pick?
It is your turn to pick. I don't know why, but when I said Bowl of Curiosity in my mind then, I had Club Tropicana tune playing.
Babes,
Bowl of
whatever lands.
Curiosity.
I'm so clumsy. This is a really bad idea. Let me just put...
There's enough topics for everyone.
Oh, God. Oh, this is really precarious.
That I just want you to know that, like, that's
I know.
that's making me my part feel
Picked it
so
up.
nervous. Thank you for taking responsibility for caring for my part.
I'm going to talk directly to one of your parts right now.
Are you?
Today,
Yes.
we're going to talk, and we've touched on this a little bit in the other episodes, but we're going to talk solely to your people pleaser.
No.
People pleasing. Thank you, Lauren, Nichola. There's probably more of you that requested us to talk about this.
Wow.
They say, don't they, that people pleasers started off as parent pleasers.
Go with that.
That's all I'm going to say. I'm not going to say anything more than that. But no, like, what was the moment that you realised you were a people pleaser?
The moment I realised, I don't think I thought of it in those terms until relatively recently, until I was well into my 40s.
Yeah.
However, I knew for most of my life, in some way, shape or form, that how I thought and felt inside was very rarely how I was behaving outside of myself. Mm-hmm. And yeah, you know, you said about most people pleasers are parent pleasers. I think I grew up not just being a parent pleaser, but a God pleaser, a teacher pleaser, a football coach pleaser. It was made very clear to me consistently, as I understand it, as my little ones understood it, that when I exhibit these traits, or when I gain the approval of adults, caregivers, I am good and worthy and safe and loved. And when I don't exhibit a certain set of behaviours, I am the opposite of that. I am bad, I am unlovable, I am cast aside, I am unloved, I am punished, actually. Punished.
Yeah.
So people pleaser as a term makes sense to me more than codependency, even though I am codependent as well, but one of the big distinctions for me were that kind of, as I understand it, one of the big features of codependency is obviously that kind of fixer, that need to kind of like...
It's like you are reliant, you are dependent on that other person.
Yes.
To, whether it's self-worth,
yes,
validation,
yes,
to feel enough. Yeah, you are solely reliant. So for some people it's rescuing, which was me. But for some people, let's say someone that's in a codependent relationship that tends to be with narcissists, like an empath narcissist, that's like the person on the receiving end isn't rescuing, but they are almost like stuck in victim and being rescued. So it can kind of work both ways. But yeah, that's a clear difference.
And I think for me, because it manifested itself in it wasn't just with people that I knew and people I was in relationships with. It was with pretty much everybody. Like, you could stick me in a room full of strangers and I'm going to people please how I think they want me to behave.
Yeah.
Or with a doctor or fucking random in the pub. Like, I'd be a little bit, as I understand it now, like a little bit like that. I can't remember the name of the Fast Show character, but there was that character, wasn't it, that would always agree with everyone.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Do you remember?
I feel like we need to watch
Was
it
it the
now.
Paul Whitehouse that played it? I can't remember. But anyway, I don't know why that just popped up. But there was, like, and I have so much compassion, by the way, for the reasons why. You know, when you don't grow up, for whatever reason, nurturing an authentic sense of self and feeling safe to do that and be that.
Yeah.
It's no wonder that as an adult, it's very difficult to step into the world and be with other humans in a way that's channeling that lack of safety. It's like massive. It's been a massive part of my life, coming to terms with, first of all, which wasn't easy, coming to terms with the fact that I'm a people pleaser, coming to terms with the fact that the pain I've carried with me, not just because of the things that happened to me, but because of what I made them mean, which is massively transformational for me. But it was that last part was when I first began to reclaim myself and reclaim my power. When I recognised that I have power. I had no control over what happened to me growing up, like at all. And some of the experiences and choices and things that happened to me. But what I made them mean, how I allowed those to fester, how I didn't take any responsibility as I got older for such a long time and created chaos for myself and by people pleasing and knowing I was doing that, even if I didn't know it was called people pleasing, I felt the discomfort of that and I felt the consequence of that, which ultimately for me, all roads of people pleasing led to resentment. And resentment in terms of behaviour generally manifested in emotional outbursts.
Like day and night. Like
And
this.
victimhood.
Yeah. Yeah.
Real victimhood. But victimhood, that was the bit that really took me the longest to take responsibility for. I have to be honest about that.
I love what your counsellor said to you, though.
Well, that was the if there was the moment. Like I knew I was people pleasing. Like even if I couldn't call it that, I knew that there was a disconnect between a lack of congruence between who I thought I was or might be, and how I was behaving. But that victimhood, by the time I'd worked with 3 or 4 counsellors and psychotherapists and I'd always done it from the perspective of I'm on my knees here and this is like a last resort.
Yeah.
Until 2017, when the role I was in was made redundant and I didn't know what I was going to do next, but I was in a good place. And that was the first time that I sought therapy from a proactive standpoint of support. I'm asking for support while I'm in a good place because I know this could unravel quite quickly if I try and deal with all of this on my own.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And it was invaluable. But as you do when you're creating a relationship with a therapist or a coach for that matter, or anybody, any professional that you're going to potentially work with long term, you kind of start to unfurl your life story, don't you? And you say the things that have happened to you. And unknowingly in 2017, I was still doing that very much from a position of kind of unluckiness or victimhood, or why do I always meet the wrong people in terms of relationships? Or if only I'd worked out what career I wanted, then I wouldn't have kept getting in these situations and having these experiences and blaming the corporate world for all of my woes at work and all of that kind of stuff. And I'd spoken for like 40 minutes of a really early session about all of this and saying, but I'm here, I'm here for this, da, 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 da. And I just couldn't see the wood for the trees until they reflected back to me and they asked for consent, you know, can I just reflect one thing back to you? And they did, and they reflected back in a question, very coachy actually, like what's the one thing in common in all of these experiences, in all of your relationship stories, you know, with women that you'd been with, cohabited with, were married to, all of the friendship groups you'd been in and left, all of the jobs you'd had and left. Just what's the one common thing in all of those throughout over 2 decades? And then I had like a somatic, emotional, spiritual experience in that moment of realization that it was me, that I was the common denominator in all of those experiences. And it was like simultaneously feeling like I'd just woken up.
Yeah.
And everything changed. My whole reality had just changed in an instant of how I viewed myself, my life, my choices, my relationships, everything I've just mentioned. There was also a bit of shame attached to that moment, but there was also this massive joyous energy of, fuck, if I'm the common denominator in all of this, then it isn't that I met all the wrong women and it was about them, or the friendship groups didn't get me, or the jobs were shit and I had crap bosses. Like, that doesn't mean all those things weren't necessarily, there were truths in that.
Yeah.
But it was really about, I have the power in me to move forwards in a different way now. And I'm really enthusiastic about how the fuck I do that, because I have no idea, and I'm now in my early 40s. That's how it felt to me. Wow. The moment of waking up. Like, knowing you're a people pleaser and judging yourself for that's one thing.
Yeah.
And keeping that secret, that's purely shame.
Yeah. Exactly.
Like, I don't want anyone to ever find out that this is what I'm really like. But actually, in that moment, it was like everything flipped.
Yeah.
And I mean, that was when the work really, truly began for me. Like, from that moment onwards, because I couldn't unsee and unfeel that any longer.
Yeah.
That response, that opportunity also came with responsibility. Shit, I need to take responsibility now. For who I am, and that I not only have a choice and an opportunity, but I don't have the words to adequately explain the magnitude of it. It was that big.
Yeah. Oh my God, I so relate. Mine definitely was a memory that sticks with me. Is I'd had my breakdown where I'd been staying on my mum and stepdad's couch. I'd moved to Beeston, Nottingham, and I was walking back from my job in recruitment, listening to podcasts, and I'd just discovered about codependency. And I was walking along University Boulevard, and it was like, you know, that gorgeous row of trees. And they mentioned codependency, and they used the term manipulation. Oh my God, like, my blood ran cold. I think I'd attached to being a kind, nice person that helped others, and understanding codependency to the level that I did, and especially reflecting on codependency as someone that grew up within what I now know, quite a stereotypical dysfunctional family unit where there is addiction. Yeah. It's very common to fall into certain roles and fall into dynamics. But the reality of the situation is, when there's addiction, there is often enabling, codependency, and in some instances, narcissism. All of which just made me like want to be sick all over myself. Yeah. Now, it's not to say that when there's narcissistic behaviours, there is narcissists. I need to make that very clear. But when it goes untouched and when it goes unhealed, it is all about gripping onto control, managing situations, manipulating things to feel self-soothed and get the outcome you want. And oh my God, it shook me to my core. And then, like you said, like, it was almost like I got this like show reel of my whole life, and everything was like out of kilter, and everything just looked at me and was just like similar things. All the times when I would blame my partners for dysfunction, I would blame others on conflict, I would be exactly the same with work. Oh, it's this and it's that and the other. Why am I so busy? Why does no one help me? Why am I the one working late? Why do I always care for everyone? Why am I paying for this? Like, as I'm literally just showering all my money away. Like, and I just look back at everything, it's like, fuck. Like, it was, yeah, a real difficult eye-opener, but I was so determined to not let this carry on, like, not let this dysfunction carry on. I was single at the time, on dating apps, which was just, I was seeing patterns coming up with that as well, of just like, wow, I'm in the same, I'm getting attracted and pulled into the same old dynamics. And I was just like, this is just fucking horrendous. Didn't know who I was. And like, I think that's a real common thing when you start to peel back the layers and you start to realise, oh my God, I've been everyone to everything. I have no idea who the fuck I am under all of these masks. So I'm not shocked that these people don't know who the fuck I am, and relationships don't get to be cultivated and help you where they're long lasting. Like, I would move away from a situation, and any kind of relationship that I had that I thought was decent or tight would just go, just moved. I just moved around from place to place. And yeah, honestly, if I'm being really honest, like, especially in the last 2 years, because I've paid to go and work for full days with like psychologists on my relational trauma. I've worked with an IFS therapist and coach. Like, I've worked with therapists, and I've wanted to understand, like, cognitively understand what the fuck has been happening here. Why do I self-abandon so much? But also, I'm going to pick up relational dynamics and behaviours from my parents, who have picked it up from their parents. And I wanted to kind of understand how this all was playing out, so then I could make a choice, identify the behaviours, and then make that change. But it's not just as simple as I'm just a people pleaser. For me, it like it runs in my bones.
I do hear that a lot. Like, I'm just a people pleaser, or I'm just, you know what I mean? And I think it is, I want to delve into that a little bit deeper. You used the word manipulative, and again, that's a hard truth which I've accepted. One of the phrases which I think for me really hit home was that unspoken or covert contracts. So I spoke about resentment. The resentment festered because subconsciously, without me it really being in the forefront of my mind, like if I overworked, if I went the extra mile, love that. What was I creating? What did I unknowingly demand of the people I was doing it for?
Yeah.
So for me, I was demanding reciprocity. So equally, that level of effort from everybody else. I did that when I was a football manager, which is part of the reason why, like, everything fell apart at one point, because it was all unspoken, and that's another story. But it definitely happened to me a lot in the workplace.
Yeah.
And I think it wasn't just reciprocity though; it was connection. It was if I not just go the extra mile in terms of acts of service, but if I listen to you, if I hold space for you, if I'm the go-to guy for everybody to come to with their problems, you're going to be able to hold mine.
Oh, and they couldn't.
Some could, but very very few.
Very few.
Like, and then it'd be like, how the fuck can you? And I would be having, I would quite legitimately feel like, how can you not be doing this back?
Yeah.
But I never asked for it. We never agreed it.
No.
Like, ever.
I know.
And I think that was really scary. And it was the same in personal relationships. And that for me is one of the things that fascinates me the most about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But also that the journey to break free of these behaviours is long, it's messy, and it involves a number of different things, which I am practicing all of the time still, in order to, because it's easy for me to catch, and sometimes I do catch myself just going straight back to that, and then it's like, no, hang on, I'm going to have to address that now.
Yeah. Oh my God. Like I had the same experience with work, and I know I've spoken about the comment that an old colleague made about my high expectations and that reciprocity. But yeah, definitely for me, it was money. Like I share in my story that, you know, when I had my breakdown in 2017, I was about 20K worth in debt. And I do hear this a lot in peer support spaces, especially with COAs, where it's like, I'm just going to give, I'm just going to keep giving. So like any rounds in the pub, it would be like, I'll get this. I'll buy you a present. I remember you got really triggered at the start of our relationship because I bought you clothes, and I'd never had someone stand up to it and be like, what are you doing? Because it was making you feel less than. You were like, well, do I not look good in what I wear? And I never have someone reflect that back. And I've been really triggered since I've noticed it in myself as this, like, oh, it's just my love language, giving gifts. Like, I would love giving people gifts, but since I've identified these behaviours where, like you've just talked about then, there's an unspoken contract. I am doing this because I want something from you, whether I want the same back, or I want you to be my friend, or I want you to soothe my nervous system. I am doing this for me. It's actually not pleasing you. I am pleasing me. And one of my red flags, if I'm honest now, is when someone is massively love bombing and giving me stuff when they don't know me very well.
And it has happened a few times. And I don't think either of us have really seen it until it's too late almost. And
you're like fully in, and I'm like suddenly feeling really unsafe. Like, what's this person want from me? And the direct part of me wants to just go, what, why are you gifting me all these things? Why are you buying me lots of presents? But for a lot of people, it will be from a genuine place of love and a love language. But sadly, for other people, it will be something that it needs unraveling of, like, why do I do this to someone that's pretty much a stranger? Like, what is prompting this behaviour? And I definitely had to that. You really helped me with that at the start of the relationship. And then you've helped me unpick financial trauma, really, of like, I don't need to buy everyone things. I don't. Like, it can be very simple, but the best thing to do is be direct, ask for our needs, get the needs out on the table so we can not fall into that unspoken contract and then the resentment that follows.
But this is the hardest. You've mentioned the word needs there, which is important. It is important. And there's a lot of talk around people pleasing and boundary setting, but our boundaries come from our needs. But if you have no sense of self, then how do you know what your needs are?
Yeah.
So for me, actually, a lot of focus about people pleasing is about what we do out there with others. But I think a lot of it is about what we do inside with ourselves. And for me, what I recognised part of my people pleasing recovery was actually being able to ask myself, who am I? In very small ways, what do I like?
Yeah.
Like, do I like these clothes because I like them, or do I like them because there's safety in numbers and the people that I'm with are wearing similar things? Like, do I like these TV shows, or do I like them because other people like them and I want to be in that conversation and not feel left out? Like, same with reading books, same with like all of it. Even if I'd asked myself what's my favourite colour, I wouldn't have been able to ask you.
We have to ask each other. We have to prompt each other. You don't mind me sharing. Do you remember when we left here the other week and you said to me, "You sure you want salmon for dinner tonight?"
But there,
and I went,
classic me.
And I went,
like, old narrative.
I bought the salmon. I want the salmon. is there a question you need to ask yourself? Do you want the salmon, babe? And then you went, yeah, I've just realised I don't want to cook tonight. And it was so, but we sometimes have to really help when we ask these indirect questions, because we've got the awareness now.
Yeah.
The other person's like, come on, hold on a minute. Like,
and I'm glad we can laugh about it.
I know.
But in that moment when I phrased it like that and I projected onto you something where you could never possibly understand what I'm feeling or what my need really is, like there was that split second of fear of just being able to, this is like literally a millisecond that prevented me from saying, you know what, I know you bought salmon, I don't really feel like cooking, I don't want to have salmon tonight.
Yeah.
That's my truth.
Yeah.
But yet, are you sure you want salmon tonight? That's manipulative.
That's definite, like, behaviours we picked up from childhood situations, isn't it? And it's just, it's compassionately. I think we do it with humour now. We catch it and then we're like,
that's what I was going to go on and say. You have to have compassion
Yeah.
for the part of you that suffered.
Yeah.
Because of not feeling safe enough to express themselves in an fairly arbitrary way like that. Expressing as a grown adult what I want and what I don't want to eat. Really, like, I think I have so much compassion in those moments, alongside the way we're laughing about it, and because it's that, and that's why what I mean when I say, like, the recovery is ongoing. I think any recovery is ongoing, but if it's meaningful,
it really is. And it's not about getting this perfect. It's not about not falling into old behaviours. I catch myself all the time. It's a giving thing. It's a giving thing, or jumping in to try and rescue a situation, or even cause the drama to then go in and fix it.
Well, that's definitely like I think that's your go-to.
Yeah.
Like, I do the projecting manipulative thing that way. So, are you sure you want something? I think you just jump into action.
Yeah.
Like if remember when I couldn't get in that thing last night because the password had changed, which I didn't know.
I just totally took
and
over.
And then you just started doing it.
I know.
It's like, I didn't ask for that. I just want to get in the thing so I can do it.
Yeah.
And again, it's like, how do you have that conversation?
Yeah.
So that it doesn't become a fight.
Yeah.
Between those parts of ourselves that are so used to those behaviours. And I think that's been part of growing and healing, to allow us to sit with, in those moments where you're called out.
Yeah.
It's easy to get defensive and like, well, fuck off then, or whatever.
Fine, I don't want to fucking count you anyway.
I've had those experiences. No, but do you know what I mean? I think they're common ways couples especially do fall out.
Yeah, because you're not needed. That part isn't needed. And
Yes.
that's the self-leadership that's required, because or else you're just falling into codependency. I need you to make this feel better. And that's been, I think, a hard thing for us to sit in as a couple, where one's desperately sat in this discomfort, and we know deep down the only person that can really help what's going on internally is ourselves.
Yes.
But that's where, it is. Okay, so this part of me that's always been allowed to run the show is essentially being made redundant. That's really scary for that parts of us. So that if they've been getting their worthiness or their safety from this dynamic, then we need to start giving that to them and allowing them to find it in a more healthy way. So it's like you're being conscious of how you're behaving in your external world, but then you're really conscious of actually what's being activated in the internal world. So it takes a lot of focus, it takes a lot of intention and patience and compassion, doesn't it? But like we say, we're still catching it. And that's where the power is. It isn't in the perfection of, oh, I'm not a people pleaser anymore. Fuck that. I will always have codependency that will rise to the surface, and I have to catch it.
Yeah, and I think that's why if you are a people pleaser and you're being presented with big social media accounts that are suggesting, here are some simple steps.
Boundaries, just set a boundary.
Like, no, but I'm really passionate about this. Like, it's much more nuanced than that. And I think feeling shame because you can't take those steps, or if you set a boundary, you ain't going to feel good. You're going to feel terrified.
And that's where that quote that we saw on socials that I mentioned the other day, it was something along the lines of, when you set a boundary with someone, you need to set the boundary with the part of you that will be most scared by it.
Yes.
And that is why I think parts work is so powerful. So like when you know you want to stop being a people pleaser, my God, are you going to have to really build a relationship with that people pleaser within you? You know, it's not about, right, I'm not people pleasing anymore, I'm going to get rid of you. It's about putting your arm around them, listening to them, helping them step back.
And then ultimately giving them corrective experiences so they can become a part of you that actually they were always meant to be.
So they'll say, oh, okay, so we can tell Jess that we don't want to have salmon tonight. Oh, so we don't get told, oh, so no one has a complete meltdown. Oh, okay.
Honestly, though.
And it's like, see, we can advocate for ourselves. We can speak up for ourselves. And it's not just about how they're going to be. It's about how is that little one going to be.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's massive.
Yeah.
It's massive.
And then I think what we haven't touched upon is, you know, the real kind of trauma response of people pleasing is fawning. And that is,
yes,
like our friend Lauren, you know, describes it as the most malignant kind of threat response that we have, where she literally describes it as, and it's why I think people pleasing is so hard for people to break free from and let go of, because essentially what happens is we learn to imagine there's a saber-toothed tiger. We just lay down on the floor and we're like, do you want any seasoning on this? How can I make myself like be even better for you to absolutely chew apart? And we just lay down and go, take me. Like, you know, am I sweet enough? So have you got enough salt and pepper with that? And that's...
Yeah, what meat would you like? I'll turn myself into
what seasoning? But, you know, that's the sad truth of fawning when we had to self-abandon to that aspect in childhood. So I think it's...
I just, as you were speaking then, I just had a memory of like, because everybody understands fight or flight.
Yeah.
That part of me I felt it just rise up then. It feels unseen because fawning's not included in fight or flight.
Yeah.
So often.
I know.
Oh, you enter either fight or flight. It's like, no, you fucking don't. There's 2 or 3 others
You
that you
just
can
freeze
enter that are just as powerful.
Yeah, exactly.
And
And
I
many
think-
of us go into it because it looks like we're nice. And, you know, as a country, culturally, we are told to be nice and polite.
Yes.
And, you know, all this kind so there's so many different factors going on, like don't upset the apple cart, don't upset anyone. And yeah, I just think it's like you say, a threat response that affects people in so many ways.
I know. And I think like, you know, a term for men generally used is nice guy.
Yeah.
The nice guy. And it's like, again, very similar to people pleasing. It's you know, it's understanding what sits around all of it.
It's not very nice.
Is
though,
really
is it?
important. No, it isn't. It's the opposite of that.
You want to be kind.
Yes.
And kind means I can be firm and I can set boundaries.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
that I think for myself and a lot of my clients is a big subconscious shift. I can be kind and I can be kind and say no. I can be kind and put myself first. I can be kind and have self-care. Like, it's so important. But I think, like, as you're probably noticing with a lot of these episodes, is that it's not a one size, it's not a quick fix. It's not like, well, just here's a book on boundaries and all your people-pleasing woes will be gotten rid of. But I think if you can find the courage and the spaces to have those difficult moments, have those bum clenchy, oh my fucking God, like my whole like timeline has shifted and I'm going to have to face my behaviour, that is the first start of your change.
No, look, I know, and I think I agree, and I think it's about being able to hold for yourself and have others help you do that. Having both, like, so many different feelings at the same time.
Yeah.
And I think I'm glad we've spoken about the manipulative side of it. I've spoken to some people that have really big accounts on social media who are afraid to talk about manipulation when it comes to people pleasing, because it doesn't land. And I've had the same with nice and kind, and understanding the difference. And it's not about it's not, I want to be clear, really clear about this. It's not about saying it's all my fault that I chose this.
No.
That, do you know what I mean? When we talk about the power you have, when we talk about all of these unspoken and covert contracts, when we talk about everything we've mentioned today, it's not about saying this is all my fault.
Your conditioning isn't your fault,
No.
but your healing is your responsibility.
That's beautifully expressed. That's beautifully expressed.
That is the responsibility.
But
if you're noticing problems, you can work with that.
But you can't do that just by taking this part of people pleasing
No.
and saying I'm going to put a few boundaries
No.
in and I'm going to
No.
do this and that's going to take care of it, because
No.
it fucking won't.
No.
It just won't.
No. There's the parts of you that have been conditioned for so long will just have so much impact.
Much to say about it.
So yeah, it's a real compassionate self-inquiry and finding the right spaces in people.
But I think that part of that journey is when you can go into the depths of darkness around the manipulation, around exhibiting those behaviours, when you can find self-forgiveness, self-acceptance, understanding, compassion, and you can lift all of those parts of you out of that shame swamp, that feeling of acceptance and power really does come through. Because then it gives you the resilience to be able to cope with everything that's required, everything that may happen, whatever that might be.
Yeah.
And that includes also falling apart sometimes.
Yeah.
Like being rejected because you take responsibility for who you've been as a people pleaser and you share that with someone and they come back at you like, well, fuck off then. Or they just drift and ignore you. Or any one of a number of other possibilities. Yes, some will hopefully embrace you. Like, this is brave stuff. It's big, it's brave. But I think like everything to do with not just people pleasing, but healing and growth generally has to be about finding space for it all.
Yeah.
You know, not all at once.
No.
And not just once.
No.
But like, and I think that's why love and compassion and all of these other nurturing qualities are so important here.
Yeah. I think like
To
one of the,
cradle it all.
when you were talking about like the people that might, you know, not like the version of you that doesn't people please, like, it used to always help me to read the quotes that were like along the lines of, paraphrasing here, but the things and the people you lose when you step away from people pleasing, the people that benefited from your lack of boundaries.
Exactly.
And like just knowing that like that those people worked with that version of you.
Yeah.
And just trust when the loss happens and the people fall away that there'll be new people that will come and you can just start off from a direct, honest, authentic you with the needs. But yeah, I guess probably to leave you with some reflection is, where are you feeling the most resentment? Think about really, where are you harbouring and holding in the most resentment? Think about those situations and what needs are you abandoning? Start there.
Yes, I love that. Especially if the answer to that resentment is outside of yourself.
Yeah, exactly that.
And get curious about that.
Oof.
And love yourself through it.
Exactly.
Because you're amazing.
You're in the right place. This is a recovering people pleaser team here. So you're welcome. But yeah, go gentle. But yeah, there's gold in there. There's always gold.
Yeah.
And you deserve to look after your needs. So until next time, take care.
Protect your energy.
Yes, you said it.
Our people pleaser part just...
Yeah, just completely went, do you want seasoning with that? Love you, man.
Love you too.
Love you guys.
Love you.
See you soon. Thank you so much for listening or watching this week's episode of Have You Got Space for This? If you're liking what you're hearing and seeing, please subscribe, rate, or review the podcast so we can reach as many people around the world.
And if you're not already connected with us and are aware of everything we do at the 3E space, In the show notes, you will see all of our handles and ways to get in touch with us, which we'd really love you to do. Get connected with us. Give us your feedback on this and any other episodes you listen to, and also topics. Keep giving us topics and, yeah, stay connected. So until next time, thanks for being here.